Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Dom Dumas, and I'm in Bangkok. Yoga, episode 26. Now, before I get into that, I want to give a shout out to these two great girls that have their own podcast. That's Cassie and Mandy, and you can find them at Mixed Feelings Podcast. And that's on. You can find them on iTunes. You can find them at SoundCloud. It should also be Mixed Feelings Podcast. And you can also find them on their website, which is mixedfeelingspodcast.com. And you can find them on their Facebook page, which is it's not a Facebook page, it's a Facebook account. But it's Cassie Mandy Mixed Feelington. Don't ask me why they added the ton to it. Maybe they can tell you. And then you can also find them at Twitter at Mixed Feelings Podcast, and they're on Instagram at Mixed Feeling Podcast. And they're really funny. I've listened to quite a few of their shows. They're hilarious, a lot of fun to listen to. But I started talking to them because they liked a few of my photos on Instagram, so I just wanted to thank them, And when I noticed that they were fellow podcasters, I said, "Hey, thanks for liking my photos," And we just started chatting and getting to know each other. And they're a riot. And they have this thing on their show, which is called the Mixed Feelings Mafia. And after talking to them a little bit, I told them, "Hey, do you mind if I give you a shout out on my show?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure. We'll add you to our Mixed Feelings podcast." And what they do is they have a ticker on the bottom of their screen on their video and they eventually want to have a page on their website where they talk about where they have the Mixed Feelings Mafia, which is kind of cool. So, but I thought, hey, I like that ticker at the bottom of their screen, so I'm going to add it for this episode. So you should be seeing a ticker. Of course, the only thing that's going to be on that ticker is going to be them right now until I get some more stuff to add to it. But so it's going to be here with all their information. And I'm also going to put in my show notes at domdumas.com/26 a link to their podcast, their website where you can find them at. But for their Mixed Feelings Mafia, they give everybody a nickname, and I didn't really know what they were going to. I actually asked ahead of time, so what's going to be my nickname so I can mention it on my show? And they said, you have to wait to find out what it's going to be. And I thought, okay, that's kind of funny, or not funny, but that's kind of fun. Let's find out. So I sat and I waited, and when they published that podcast, they came out with a great name. They actually even gave me my own charter because, hey, I'm their only listener in Bangkok that's actually talked to them. So that's kind of cool. So my charter is the Thailand Bangkok Cockbangers. Get that. That's kind of funny considering that, in Thailand they kind of have this thing that's, well, you'll find out if you ever Google stuff in Thailand, in Bangkok, and if you ever come to Thailand, or talk to me about it, I'll tell you all about it. I may even do a podcast about it one day, but who knows? But it's kind of funny. I thought, okay, Thailand Bangkok Cockbangers. Wow, that's kind of interesting. But anyway, that's great. So I'm their number one member of the Bangkok Charter. Woohoo! I'm really excited about that. Don't know if it's going to get me anything other than their friendship, but you know what? As long as I got their friendship, that's pretty cool. But so their nickname for me, which is really kind of cool and funny all at the same time for a few different reasons. One, they love hockey, which is great, Cassie's kind of new to hockey, but as far as I know, Mandy kind of has loved hockey for a very long time. They're from Florida, so they kind of like the Tampa Bay Lightning. Boo! Well, I can't boo them because they're in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and my team, the Minnesota Wild, just aren't. But I'm like I said, I plan on having them on the podcast at some point in time through Skype, which will be a lot of fun. But anyway, they came up with my name, and part of the reason they chose my name is because the Mighty Ducks, the movie, and it's funny because the Mighty Ducks, the movie, the original, the first one, every indoor rink that is in that movie, I've played hockey in, and the one that where they're handing out the jerseys for the Mighty Ducks, the room that they're in is red and white. that was in the main building that I used to play hockey in the most at when I was younger, and that was Cook Memorial Arena. So that was kind of cool. So one of the characters in that movie, he had a slap shot that he called a knuckle puck, and it was really, there's not really a knuckle puck, but it's still kind of cool, So this is kind of, their nickname for me is Dom Knuckle Puck DeLuise. They chose DeLuise because they don't know anybody named Dom, and the only famous person that they know of named Dom is Dom DeLuise. So hey, that's all right. I'm happy to go with it. So whatever, let's have fun with it. But yeah, so it was great, So I started talking to them, and you can find, like I said, you can find them at http://mixedfeelingspodcast.com. That's all one word. Have fun. Listen to them. They're great, And if you talk to them, let them know that I sent you. But enough of that. Oh, and their graphic for me. You'll see I'm going to post it right over here. At least that's my plan. I'm probably pointing at the wrong spot, but they made a graphic for me, and I'm going to put it right over here. And that's going to be kind of, it has my nickname and my Twitter account on there and stuff like that. But, you should be able to see that. So enough of that. Now on to yoga. Yoga is interesting. Because I can remember when I was younger, and when I was in the Navy, and after I was in the Navy, and before I was in the Navy, I see pictures of people doing yoga. I'd watched videos of people doing yoga, and it never really looked like they were working very hard. I always thought, you look at them, they're not really that great. I mean, nobody's breaking a sweat, nobody's doing anything that and to be fair, I never really tried any of their poses, but I thought, watching them, and I thought, they're not even working hard. Look, they're not breathing hard, they're not sweating, what's with that? It can't be that hard, so why give it a shot? So anyway, so I moved to Thailand in 2005, and for, I would say, probably about 6-7 months, Tracy really tried to convince me to come with her to her yoga class. Now, she wasn't doing yoga when I first came. She started doing yoga, maybe it wasn't even 6-7 months, maybe it was only like 2 months, to be honest. But she found a new yoga. She wasn't doing yoga when I moved to Thailand, but she had done yoga in the past, and then she started doing yoga again at this place called Yoga Elements. So she talked to me, and finally I was like, okay, I'll come do yoga with you. Actually, I wasn't that, pathetic, but yeah, so I was like, yeah, sure, all right, I'll go. Why not? I'll give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? It's going to be boring and lame, and I just won't go again. And they offer a free class, so it's not going to cost anything. And this was in 2006. So I decided, I went and we met to go to the class. I brought some shorts and a T-shirt, and I can remember even my instructor, the instructor for that particular class was Kru Somchai, and lovely gentleman. He was great. And so we started into class, and I'm getting warmed up for the class. Before the class even started, I'm getting warmed up, I'm stretching, thinking, this is probably going to be pretty easy. I've studied martial arts for a long time. It's not going to be a big deal. I played ice hockey. I was a professional wrestler, flying around, stuff like that. So class gets ready to get started. This gentleman, Somchai, Kru Somchai is really kind of soft-spoken. And I'm thinking, okay, this isn't going to be so good. The movements, it was the beginner's class, So at Yoga Elements, they call it the Elements class because it's the beginner's class. And we're going through the motions, building up to do a sun salutation, do. And after about 5-10 minutes, I was like, whew, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. And then after about 20 minutes, I was like, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. And I thought I was going to die. Don't get me wrong. No, I didn't think I was going to die, but it was just, I was working so hard just to do all these different postures, going through the sun salutation, downward facing dog. It looks so easy, but I'll tell you what, to do it right, it's not. But so we're going through all these positions and doing the sun salutation and the seated poses and stuff like that, and I was like, holy cow. And at the end of the class, which is about an hour and a half long, I really knew I had done something. I had worked really hard. So that was like really cool. And I was just amazed by how I felt afterwards. I mean, I was tired, I was invigorated, I had a lot of energy, but again, like I said, I was tired. So it was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So we started doing yoga. I fell in love with it. I'll be honest, that one class with Kru Somchai, and thank you, Kru Somchai, if you ever happen to hear this podcast or somebody ever tells you about it, thank you very much. You made me fall in love with yoga with that one class. As a matter of fact, I used to go to look for his classes and try to go to his classes as often as I could. But so Tracy and I continued to study yoga until about August 2007, because that's about the time that we had moved to Chiang Mai. Now, when we lived in Chiang Mai, we didn't go do yoga anywhere. Didn't really do much of anything. I wasn't practicing martial arts. I wasn't doing yoga. I wasn't ice skating. I wasn't rollerblading. I just riding a motorcycle and eating a lot of food. And not necessarily all of it was really good food. A lot of it was probably not probably. A lot of it was actually really crap food. But, that happens. And then while I was in Chiang Mai, as I talked about in my third episode about Chiang Mai, living in Chiang Mai, which you can find at domdumas.com/3, is I got into a really dark place, especially near the end of our time in Chiang Mai, and I was depressed. I was angry. I don't know if I was depressed. I just wasn't my normal happy self, I guess you could say. Now, some people would say that was a form of depression, but I don't like to label myself, or anybody for that matter. But yeah, so I wasn't in a very good place. That's the best way to explain it. I was really angry about a lot of things, and it just kind of made me angry at like more than just normal stuff, things that really upset people, like things that kind of upset people. I kind of started getting upset about more and more things, and the more upset I got, the less chance I got to release it. It just started building up and getting worse and worse and worse. And then in about 2010, we moved back to Bangkok. And I didn't have a lot of time, because I went to work with a company that I used to work for, and they actually made me, I won't say they made me a manager, but they kind of made me, they made me a full-time employee. So I was there from like about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock, and I didn't finish until about 6, 7 o'clock, unless I had to go out someplace and teach a class. Then I wouldn't be finished until about 8 o'clock sometimes. So I really didn't have any time to do anything, and I only had 1 day off a week. So, but once I finished working for that company, I had more free time. So I started doing yoga. And started doing yoga again. I went back to Yoga Elements, and you know what? It was so cool to the reception that Tracy and I got the day we walked back into Yoga Elements. They made us feel so welcomed and so loved, and they remembered us. Kun Gate, Kun Nuki, Adrian, who's the owner, Sarissa. These are the teachers that were there when we were there before. And it was such a nice feeling. Oh, I loved it. Do you know what I mean? And it felt great. Adrian gave us a great big hug. Found out Adrian was married. He'd married this lady who he now teaches yoga with. And so it was like really cool. And our first class, Tracy and I's first class back, was with Adrian. So, before I get too far, there was another yoga teacher that I really loved at the time. Sarissa was there. I loved doing yoga with Sarissa. The way Sarissa did yoga was really, it's hard to explain other than I wrote a blog post about it actually. And it, honestly, for me, whenever I did a class with Sarissa, you really felt the class was about love. It's hard to explain, but love for yourself. Don't have too many expectations for yourself. Don't have any expectations of others, and things like that. And this has always kind of been, I felt, the feeling I've got from Sarissa's class. So one of the other teachers that I missed when we came back, to Yoga Elements, Kru Somchai, he wasn't there anymore, so that was kind of sad. And also there was another teacher that both Tracy and I loved. Her name was Yui. Oh, she was great because, like, to help remind you to keep your legs straight for when you were doing, for example, downward facing dog, or you were doing low runner, or things like that, or like warrior 1, warrior 2, is to keep that back leg straight and engaged. She would say, supercharge, keep your legs supercharged. And just the way she said it made you feel like, yes, I can do this. So it was kind of cool. But anyway, coming back to Thailand and coming back to yoga, and everybody made us feel really, really good. And it was such a great thing. And I started going back to yoga, and now I'm doing yoga 5, 6, 7 times a week, which was a lot of fun. I love doing yoga. And one of the great things about coming back to yoga is it it really helped me get out of this funk, out of this dark place that I was in. When we were living near the end of our time living in Chiang Mai, and when we came back to Bangkok, I was kind of in this funk, and then I started doing yoga, and I started feeling a little bit better about myself. I started losing weight, which was really, really important. I had just previously quit smoking again prior to just starting yoga, and by doing yoga, it kind of helped fight the cravings that I was having, which was a nice thing. And then I can remember, like, this is clear as a bell. I remember one day I was on my way someplace on the back of a motorcycle, and I just looked up and thought, fuck, Thailand, Bangkok is beautiful. And there wasn't anything special about that day. I was just looking up, and I could see the high-rise towers. I could see the trees. I could see the sky was blue. And I felt so much better. I felt better about myself. I felt better about the situation I was in. And a lot of that, I feel, had to do with the fact that I had gone back to yoga. And so I was starting to lose weight, and I was feeling better about myself. I was feeling better about the people that I was around. I was feeling better about living in Thailand again. And it was such an amazing feeling. And of course, me being the type of person that I am, the first thing I did, like that night, I went and I talked to Adrian about it, and I was like, just how amazed I was that I woke up and suddenly, wham! Thailand is just this beautiful country. I started feeling that again, and it was great. And then I started, I was really, like I said, I was doing yoga 5, 6, 7 times a week. On the weekends, sometimes I do 2 classes. And then every year, Yoga Elements, Adrian and Shane, they run this yoga teacher training course. They run one that runs during the week in the mornings, and they run one that they do on the weekends, 2 days on the weekends for 8 hours a day. And now I was busy during the week, so I would do the course that was on the weekends, and there was so much information. And Adrian had this link on his webpage of all the books that you would need, or that you should read. I wouldn't necessarily say you need. Their recommended reading list for doing the yoga teacher training course. So of course I got all the books, read them all. And then I went on the course, and there was so much information, but I learned so much, and it helped make me more aware, not only of what was going on with my body, but being more aware of what was going on with other people in the class, and being more observant of what was going on with, say, my students, or stuff like that. And that was really cool. And this was like a 200 the course is a 200-hour course, if I'm not mistaken. And we ended the whole course for us. It was classified as a 200-hour course, but it ended up being like a 250-hour course. And you learned about the anatomy, you learned about muscle structure, bone structure, the difference in the way people's bodies are structured. Like, to give you a perfect example, I remember Shane putting me on the floor, or not just me, but having a number of us students on the floor in the teacher training course, in a seated position with our hands flat, and some people could touch the floor at their hips, some people couldn't. Then they put us on our knees, and some people could still touch the floor. Now, my hands were pretty close, if not right on the floor, but they were like at their fullest extent at that point. But some people, their arms were bent so they could actually push down and lift themselves off the ground, which was kind of cool. But then some people, they just, like me, they could just touch the floor, and that was about it. And I learned, like I said, I learned so much about yoga. I learned so much about the body. I learned so much about breathing. I learned a lot about how different ways to speak. Now, I learned ways of speaking when I was working in restaurants, things that would help people buy things that I'm suggesting for them to buy, like desserts or to a drink or to upsell a dinner. There are different things you can say and different things that you could do to help bring that a little bit more, or give you a better chance of them buying those things. Because of course, the higher you make your check, the bigger your tip's going to be. The percentage is going to be about the same unless your service is really good, which my service was always usually pretty good. But then they have you have a percentage, and the higher your bill is, of course, then the more your tip is going to be. But anyway, so he was teaching us some NLP type of language to help get people more focused on their body, or to stop thinking about different things like what's going on with their day while they're in the class and things like that. And overall, I thought the class was like really, really good. And there were just some things that I didn't personally feel was necessary, because again, you have to be very aware of what's going on with your students, and you talk to while you're teaching your class, what are they doing and stuff like that, and how they're breathing, how they're reacting to the different things you say. Sometimes you might have to change what you're saying to get them to do different things. But some of the people on my course, they wanted, for example, they wanted to be taught how to give adjustments, or how to adjust people in different poses, which really, it does make sense. I can understand that. But because Adrian and I were quite close, at the end of the course, they were felt very upset about that they didn't get how to do adjustments and stuff. They didn't get this kind of training on how to adjust people in different postures. So they came to me and said, "Hey, Dom, can you talk to Adrian? And, we're upset about this. This is what we wanted. We were hoping to be able to get, and we didn't get it." And I was like, "Okay, I'll talk to Adrian, and then, we can all sit down together." And they're like, yeah, okay, that's great. And now Adrian's very busy. Not only does he run a business, he's also teaching in this business. Plus, he's going other places and teaching yoga, other places in the world, to other countries. Plus, he goes back home quite a bit. So, and he's also going to these different seminars. And so Adrian is really busy. So to set an appointment to meet with Adrian, that kind of took a little bit of time. And once I kind of did, everybody kind of left me to hang out to dry. They were like, nobody wanted to come and sit down because they're afraid that Adrian was going to be like really angry with them, or that he wasn't going to pass them, or whatever. They were afraid about something, so I was kind of left holding the ball. These people are really upset, but they didn't want to talk to him. So now I know what their problem is. So of course I sympathize with them. So I kind of feel why they're upset, and I go to talk to Adrian, and it's hard to get Adrian to set up an appointment because, like I said, he was very, very busy. It's not like he was trying to avoid me or anything like that, but it was like trying to get him to sit down so I could talk to him. It was really, really difficult. And then when I could finally get him to sit down and talk with me, when he did have some free time, nobody wanted to sit down. They wanted me to do it all. They didn't want anything to do with it anymore. They just wanted it to be all on me to fix it. And I kind of, that really put Adrian, who was a good friend of mine, it kind of put him and I at odds, you know what I mean? And it kind of put us in a bad position with each other. And that really, really upset me. And that kind of was one of the reasons that I kind of drifted away from yoga. Another thing that really bothered me, that once I'd finished my yoga teacher training course, or while I was coming towards the end of my yoga teacher training course, actually, is to hear fellow practitioners and teachers. I can remember them constantly telling us it's not about the pose. It's not about the pose. It's not about this. It's only between you and the mat. And I totally understand that. But then they would post pictures of them doing these poses they're really, really difficult, even for an experienced practitioner. And they're saying this is what yoga is all about. Or they would be having, I can remember sitting inside Yoga Elements studio, having a glass of tea after class and hearing another two people talking about how women after a certain age should either do yoga every day or not even bother. It's kind of a waste of time for them. And they were kind of talking in a very derogatory manner about older women. And it was kind of like, wait, now you're supposed to be like showing us how to be. And they weren't. It's not like they were talking quietly. And I wasn't even eavesdropping on their conversation. They were talking loud enough so everybody in the lobby area could hear every word they were saying. And that kind of put me. I kind of felt like, what are you guys doing? And these are two people I had a lot of respect for. So that was like, that really kind of made me feel a bit like, wow, what is yoga? What is this supposed to be? It's not supposed to be about the pose, yet every one of these people that I have a lot of respect for, they're making things about the pose. Yeah, when you get better, you'll be able to do this, regardless of what you think your body can do now. What? Or they, and they're posting pictures and they're posting, they're having these conversations about, hey, this type of person is doing this and they really, blah, 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 And to be honest, it really turned me off of yoga. And also because of what happened with Adrian and I, with my teacher training class and a lot of the students, it kind of put Adrian and I on off kilter. With all of this, I kind of fell out of love with yoga. I still use it, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't doing yoga every day. I wasn't actually going to any studios anywhere to do yoga. I hadn't gone back to Yoga Elements. And then I found a martial arts studio, so I got back into martial arts, but I still used yoga on different things. For example, I showed my sensei in karate the pigeon pose to help open up the hip muscle, before a class. And he incorporated that into our warm-ups every day. But again, I wasn't doing yoga every day, so it just kind of wasn't something that I really wanted to do. And because of everything that had happened and that was going on, I had a personal struggle with yoga itself. Now, Adrian and I have gotten along, have talked, and we get along now. I'm no longer at odds with him. So please don't think that. Adrian and I are actually on really good speaking terms, as far as I know. I hope. Anyway, but him and I talked it out. I remember having the conversation. We actually went for lunch one day and talked about it, and that helped me a lot between him and I. But I was still kind of at odds with yoga for a long time. I still used it from time to time, and I did teach yoga a few times, but I completed the course and stuff like that. But I struggled with yoga. I don't know how else to put it. I really did struggle with yoga. But then I can remember, this is just recently. Now, Tracy found out, Yoga Elements had moved location because the building that they were in is being torn down, and they had to move, and they did finally move. They found a new place. I still haven't been back, and nothing against Adrian or anybody else there at Yoga Elements. Yoga isn't really my thing. When I do it, I enjoy it, but I have other priorities right now. But we had just a few days ago, on Friday, as a matter of fact, like today is now Sunday that I'm recording this, Sunday the 22nd to be exact. So on Friday the 20th, it was a public holiday here in Thailand, so my dojo closes all public holidays. I had nothing to do, so Tracy said, "Hey, why don't you come to yoga with me?" And I was like, "Oh, I suppose, yeah, sure, why not?" And what really helped convince me is Tracy had previously gone to yoga. She'd been to 2 classes before this, and she was going, and she was raving about how good she felt, and I could see how good she was feeling. And also what helped is she's going with somebody that both of us just love, and that's Sarissa. Sarissa is really cool. Sarissa is also from Minnesota, so that, for me, helps, bumps her up on the cool level. But Sarissa as a yoga teacher was just phenomenal. And I always loved her classes, whether it was doing yin yoga or doing yoga, doing elements level or flow level or bliss level, whatever class I had with Sarissa, I'd always loved. So yeah, I was like, yeah, sure, okay, I'll go to. Sarissa now was teaching. She has a place that she's teaching at that's all by herself, and it's a very small, personal, private level, I guess you could say. So Tracy said, let's go, you can come to yoga with me. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. So we went, and first off, when I walked in, Sarissa was so happy to see. She was so happy to see Tracy when Tracy came back, and she said some lovely things about Tracy, which was great, And when she saw me, she was so happy. She gave me this great big hug, which felt lovely and was like welcoming. And we talked a bit before everybody else showed up. Well, the one other person showed up that was going to do yoga with us, and then the class itself, and it was a great class. Sarissa, if you ever get a chance to listen to this podcast, thank you very much. It was a lovely class, and you kind of have helped break off some of the negativity that I've had for yoga. Thank you very much. I loved it. But she kind of helped remind me of a few things, of not intentionally, but just through her class, of what yoga really should be about. And I loved it, and I loved her. I love her for it, and it was a great class. So, but I think that's all for now. Anyway, about yoga, I am talking to her about possibly doing a podcast with me, but not sure. Don't expect it. If it does, great. If not, no big deal. But anyway, so my always remember for today is I want you to always remember that no matter what you do, even if it's a competitive sport or a non-competitive activity, it should always be about you and the activity. And that's all. All right. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Please rate my show or leave a comment or make suggestions of what you would like me to talk about. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Dom Dumas, on Twitter at Dom Dumas, and on Instagram, Dom_Dumas. Thanks a lot.